What's up, everybody? I'm Johnny Omega, back with a new review, this time talking about the new Netflix film Malcolm and Marie, so let's get to it. After returning from a movie premiere, smoldering tensions and painful revelations pushed the filmmaker and his girlfriend towards a romantic reckoning. Now let me first start off by saying, if you're new to this channel, thanks for stopping by, and if you've been here before, thanks for coming back. In my reviews, I discuss what I like, what I didn't like, and then my overall thoughts. This movie is written and directed by Sam Levinson and stars John David Washington and Zendaya, and was the first major movie shot entirely during the pandemic. So starting off with what I liked about the movie, I gotta start with the cinematography because visually this movie was just great to look at. The movie's entirely in black and white, and just seeing the lights and the darks play off each other, even as something as simple as Zendaya and John David's skin tone, was just stunning. So much so that there are several shots in the movie where you could just freeze it and it would be a great shot to just hang on a wall or for a photographer to have in their portfolio. I was actually lucky enough to see this movie in a theater on the big screen, and I just can't compliment enough how good this movie is visually. Another thing I liked about this movie though was the acting. I think Zendaya and John David both did a great job. And while I don't think she's gonna win, I do think Zendaya is gonna get nominated for an Oscar. The range of emotions that Zendaya has to go through with her character Marie in this movie comes across extremely believable, and you totally buy into it as the movie unfolds. And I think she does a really good job in the movie during the parts where she has to act through her expressions. Like there's a scene in the movie where the character of Malcolm is trying to initiate some adult time with Marie, and he obviously doesn't see it, but it's all in her face that she really ain't feeling this dude right now because she's clearly in her feelings about something. Then there's a scene in the bathroom where Malcolm totally goes off on Marie, and you can maybe say that she brought it on herself, but Zendaya does a good job with clearly getting across how the character is feeling without saying a word. But that's not to take anything away from John David Washington's performance, because he did a good job too. He has several scenes where he goes into these soliloquies and monologues where he just goes off about something, you just can't take your eyes off of him because he's just so attention grabbing. And obviously this isn't a comedy, but he has some genuinely funny moments in this movie too. But seeing these two play off each other so well kind of makes you wonder how much of this was actually written down in the script and how much was actually ad-libbed. And it actually leads me to another thing I liked about this movie, and that's the writing. The movie is very dialogue heavy, and it builds as the movie builds. I also think the movie does a really good job of getting you invested in these characters at the beginning, and that's very important because if you're not invested in these characters, I'd say within the first 20 minutes or so, the rest of the movie is not really going to work for you. But once you're in the movie and you go on this roller coaster ride, I think it's definitely going to warrant some conversations with other people who have seen the movie too. There's a whole lot of things you could talk about with this movie. Things like whose side you might have been on, or were certain things taken too far, or even was all this that serious to begin with. I also think the movie does a good job with evening out the characters as far as seeing where both of them are coming from, just so neither one of them actually overwhelmingly seems like the bad guy in this situation. But as far as the negatives go with this movie, I really don't have any. There are two things about this movie that I think might turn some people off, and the first one is the arguing. If you're the type that's overly passive aggressive and you're always quick to compromise because you're always willing to avoid conflict, then you might not like this movie too much because about 80% of it is just the two of them arguing. But a lot of the arguing is really just small things that bring up frustrations and other things that just turn into one big thing, and I think that that's something that a lot of people can relate to, especially if you're married or you've been in a relationship long enough. The other thing that might turn certain people off about this movie is this rant that Malcolm goes on about film critics. And while I personally was 100% unoffended by what he said, I know that there's going to be some people that are. So even though this movie is getting good reviews now, I really wouldn't be surprised if this movie becomes more divisive as more people see it. So in conclusion, the writing was good, the acting was great. I really think that Zendaya gives an Oscar caliber performance that's good enough to be nominated, but like I said before, I don't think it's going to be good enough to actually win. But either way, it doesn't really matter because prior to this movie, all I really knew about her was her performances in the previous two Spider-Man movies, and she definitely impressed me with what she did in this movie. And honestly, I really wouldn't be surprised if John David Washington gets an Oscar nomination too, because even though BlacKkKlansman is my favorite performance of his, this is easily his best performance. All that being said, I'd say this movie is worth a watch. So Malcolm and Marie, have you seen it yet? What did you think? Comment below and let me know your thoughts. Thanks for watching. If you like what you've seen, hit that thumbs up and click that subscribe button to see what's coming next.